r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. People who had a one night stand that turned into an actual nightmare. What happened? She knew she was already pregnant and tried to pin it on me a week later. Same thing happened to me, but she had forgotten we didn't actually have sex. I was just like, oh cool, good for you. I'll spare the details and just give the highlights. Tinder match. We sexted 4 weeks. One day we meet at the bar. She approves of me, I guess, and orders 5 shots, downs them all herself. We go to her place. Upscale exclusive apartment building. She is a hoarder, clothes and boxes everywhere. We do things we sexted about. I start to question my decisions that night. I haven't sexted stuff like that since. She won't let me leave, blocks the door. I convince her to meet me back in the bedroom. I run out of the front door. I hear her howling and screaming all the way to the elevator, like I escaped the room from Stephen King's 1408. I get to my car, and it was booted. I had to wait 2 hours for them to remove it. Terrible night, but it was fun. He took off his cowboy boots to no socks, then proceeded to pet his cat with the sweaty, smelly feet. He then told me to pet her. No thanks, buddy. 2-night stand. First night went well. She was cool. Months later she calls me out of nowhere at midnight. But she can't host, and she's 45 minutes away. She says she will stay the night, so why not? As we are almost back to my house, 10 minutes, something happens. I don't know what. She had to take something before I picked her up. Out of nowhere, she is getting all paranoid about where we are going. She knows who I am, but is having a crisis over the fact she doesn't know me that well. The first time was at her place. It escalates 0 to 10 in less than a mile, and next thing she is panicking and telling me to let her out of the car. She was almost screaming. I found a gas station and pulled over. She jumps out and starts pacing frantically while calling someone. I start telling her to calm down, and that backfires, as she is screaming at me again. How can I calm down? Why did I do this? I don't know where I am. Leave me alone. People are starting to look at us, and she is shouting at me to go. I could hear her talking to a friend to pick her up. The area was safe, so I decided, alright, I'll leave then. I didn't want to, but me staying was causing her more anxiety. I drove down the block, but pulled into a lot, so I could watch and make sure she was okay. Well, someone had called the cops. So about 10 minutes later, as she is sitting on her phone, they pull in. At first the cop is just talking to her, seemingly asking if everything is alright. Even from afar, I could see her begin getting amped up again. Swing her arms around and shouting. She left in handcuffs. I still don't know what happened. But it had to be drugs. Technically not a one-night stand, because no sex happened, but I think it still counts. When I was 21, I worked in a bar and met a really cute girl who asked me to go home with her after my shift. I didn't own a car at the time, and she did, so she hung out for a bit and drove me out to her place. That was a good 20 miles outside of town, but this lovely cabin on the lake. As soon as we walk in, she grabs some shot glasses and pours out 4 shots of gin. I tell her I'm not really a gin fan and would rather drink anything else. She said, your loss, and downs all 4 of them. She was about 110 pounds at best, and that gin hit her hard. She became almost instantly hammered and was slurring and stumbling around, trying super hard to get me to fuck around, which I was super not into in this situation. I eventually get her to lay down in bed and try to sleep it off. I laid awake next to her for a few hours and eventually dozed off for some very restless sleep. That is, until I wake up and realize she has pissed the bed. I can't leave because she drove, so I get out to bed and just go sit in the kitchen and wait for her to wake up. Her mom and dad wake up before her and find a very rattled young man sitting alone in their kitchen. I had no idea she lived with her parents, and it freaked me the hell out. To their credit, they tried to be as cool about it as possible, and her mom made me some coffee. When girl finally gets up, she walks into the kitchen, where me and her parents are sitting, and says, "Did you piss the bed?" I honestly don't even remember what I said, other than a lot of stammering and a few mumbled no's, but the panic had washed over me pretty fierce by then. The dad looked over at me and just said, "You want a ride home?" To which I quickly said yes, and we shuffled out the door, and I basically ran to his truck. About 15 miles into the drive, he said, "I know you didn't do it, 'cause your pants are dry." I said I swear I didn't, and I just want to go home. We drove in silence the rest of the way. A few days later, a girl I bartended with said, "I hear you met my sister the other day." She didn't find any humor in this story, and surprisingly her sister was still claiming I was the bedwetter. I had to find a new job. Not me, but a guy I had a great one night stand with, who told me this story. He went home with a girl, but when they got to hers, she started getting really weird. He decided to take off, but she locked him in and hid the key. For those unfamiliar, many houses in the UK are locked from both inside and out, so you can't get out without a key. It's insane. So, he was literally trapped in this psycho's house. Started talking crazy about how in love they were, and crying and all that. He excused himself, and squeezed himself out the tiny bathroom window to escape. Told him I couldn't believe he was still willing to risk it after that. She got drunk the following night and texted me between 1 and 3 AM when I was asleep, angrily about liking another girl's Facebook post, but not liking her, the nightmare's new profile picture. When I woke up in the morning, I read it all and basically responded with, "Wow, I'm really sorry that I made you feel that way." I think after only one date, we didn't really get to that point of discussing social media boundaries like people would in a relationship. I appreciate you being honest with me, but this is a little overwhelming, and it was nice going out with you. She apologized and tried to say that she didn't mean it, that it was just her drunk and acting out, and to give her another chance. Literally the following night, she got drunk again and texted me a slew of messages about how I must not be attracted to her, must not care about her, etc. All while demanding that we stop texting and have a phone call. I informed her that I was at work, at a busy fire department, and couldn't talk. She was unfazed by this, and insisted that I was manipulating her and punishing her by refusing to talk. Long story short, I blocked her, and she called and texted me from a fake phone number app. To the point I had to get a new number. Guy took condom off while doing doggy. First I didn't notice. After couple of minutes, I saw the rubber on the sheets. I asked him in a not friendly way to leave my room. That's illegal in some parts of Australia and can have up to 14 years jail time, and it's an absolute massive cunt act. 20 years ago, I met a dude at a beer festival. He was working for a vendor, and I was an attendee. We decided to make it a night, and we grabbed some dinner and a hotel room. In the middle of the night, I'm awoken by the weirdest sound I have ever heard a human being make. It sounded like a loon call. I look over, and this guy's having a seizure in the bed next to me. He stops seizing after a few moments, and is super disoriented and pissed, and cocks his fist back, like he is going to punch me. I went from concerned to terrified in a split second, and fly out of the bed naked, and run to the door, ready to bolt out if he comes after me, and calmly speaking to him, reminding him who I am, that everything is okay. He begins coming back to reality, and I tell him I think he had a seizure. Should we call 911? No, he says, he just needs a drink. Turns out, he was a severe alcoholic, and was seizing from withdrawal, since he was trying to be cool for me, and had not had enough alcohol that night. Poor guy, he was only in his early 20s, I wonder if he survived. So, there was this bar literally right next to my apartment at the time, right? I go in one night, have a few drinks, end up back at my place with this woman. We do our thing a few times, and when we wake up in the morning, I assume that was that. Wrong, she sticks around the whole day, and I'm not rude or anything, so I just roll with it. She stays again, we do our thing, no biggie. Day 3, and me and my roommate are fairly confused. So I go about it delicately. Hey, shouldn't you let someone know where you are or something? Like, wouldn't this worry anyone? She responds with, oh, I did. We're all good. Okay, what else? 5 nights. 5 nights I serve as a bed and bang fast to this total stranger. Then she took me out to a really nice brunch at this upper scale restaurant the next afternoon when we woke up and left me there. No ride back to the apartment or anything. Not so much a nightmare, but baffling to say the least. Traveled 40 minutes to see her. Got there and she didn't want me to come in yet and told me to wait. 40 more minutes later she was ready. We get to her room, and I couldn't figure out how to remove her lingerie, and neither did she. Must have been why she wanted me to wait, I thought. She gave me head for 10 minutes, stopped, and literally crawled and curled up next to me. Like into my armpit and her in the fetal position. Kept asking me to call her a good girl. She then stopped everything, got her phone, and started watching old videos of her assuming ex and her. I asked if she was fine, and she said yeah, just coming down from my high. I asked what kind of high, she said meth. I asked if she wanted me to leave, which sleazy of me, but I still wanted to nut. She said no. She then climbed on top of me and tried to have unprotected sex. I told her no, I'd grab my condoms. She gets mad and runs out of her room. Comes back putting on pants. She rubs my dung for a minute, gets up again. She goes to move her bedroom door, and I see a shotgun behind it. At this point I want to bail. She's too sporadic, and now I see a weapon. I start getting my clothes, and move out the bedroom, and ask if we could finish another time. She said yeah, that was fine, and tried to kiss me on the lips. I hugged her instead, kissed her neck. I practically ran to my car in nothing but pants. Blocked her number. Thank God she was in another city. I was hammered one night after my brother's wedding. I had been a bridesmaid. Texted a guy I had been talking to. Had never met him. Got to his house, desperately needed to pee, and realized I was sewn into my dress. Drunkenly tried to take it off, fell and hit my head, which made me spew. Everywhere but the sink or toilet. He didn't even come check. Just yelled down the hallway. I ran out with a half-ripped dress covered in puke, said goodnight, and ran down the street. Woke up blocked. Oh god, brought a fella home, and he was just being really rough. Trigger warning, he was fingering me really roughly, without asking when to choke me. I firmly said no to that. I think he had taken drugs and couldn't get it up. Anyways, after a while, the action had stopped, which I was happy with. I said I didn't want to have sex, and he said that's fine. He proceeded to initiate sex 3 more times after that, even though I kept saying no. I eventually kicked him out. He was a weirdo. I had bad bruises on my inner thighs the next day. He texted me to meet up again, and I blocked his number. Men that watch too much porn and don't respect consent are the worst. She joked about framing me for domestic abuse, bragged about how many guys she could be with instead of me, and made demeaning comments towards me. I left before getting too intimate, which she found surprising. The only reason I stayed so long was to prevent her from making a scene and pretending to be abused. I wanted to let her forget she made such threats before exiting. Didn't want the guy to take off his condom during the act, so he beat me and did it anyways. The nightmare was trying to report it to the cops. They just don't give a shit about sexual assault. Dated this girl in high school briefly. We hooked up on the first date. So not quite a one night stand but close. I took her home after, said I'd text her the next day, and she gave me a kiss goodnight. The next morning at 7 AM, I woke up to 87 text messages. Keep in mind, this was during the days when you paid for a certain number of messages or per text. It started with, "Hey, good morning, hi, hello, where are you?" and ended with a monstrosity of a text that concluded with, "If you aren't ready to communicate like a man, then we are done." I replied, "Okay, sounds good." Then 2 months later, she dated one of my best friends for 3 years. That was awkward. Met a woman in the pub and took her back to my place. The morning after, she decided to hang around and wouldn't get dressed or leave after many hints. I told her I needed to go out for work, I didn't, and she could let herself out anytime. Anyway, I went to a mate's place and came back a few hours later and she wasn't there. So after I checked, I shouted to myself, "She's gone. Thank fudge for that." And she proceeded to sheepishly get out of one of my wardrobes, get dressed, and leave without saying a word to me. Drinking at the bar with a cute date. Drinking White Russian cocktails. If you don't know what they are, it's got a lot of cream on top. I take her back to mine, and as we are doing doggy style, all the motion of clapping cheeks, I can feel the cream sloshing around inside of me wanting to vacate my stomach, but I was close to busting too. I thought I could at least finish before I went to go vomit, so I power through. As I go to pull out and come on her back, I end up throwing up onto her back at the same time. Slip and bash my head on the dresser drawers. This poor woman washed me, the sheets, and tucked me into bed, and stayed with me cause she was worried for my safety. Not me but a good friend. Picked up a girl at bar, brought her home, had a great evening. Woke up, and she was dead. Apparently she had a heart condition that was aggravated by alcohol, and she was intermittent at remembering her medication at best. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.